Happy Sunday, everybody. It is the day that we dig back into our history, studying male nature, female nature, what worked in the past. It all trickled down to what we see in dating today. It goes back a long, long way. Today, we're going to read about the three little birds. Bless you. But it's not going to be about birds. What is it going to be about? Witches, princesses? Is it going to warn us about women? Is it going to show what men needed to learn about them to protect them? We don't know yet, but we're going to find out. Welcome back to Far From Eden. This is one way to feed our souls. Reminding yourself or learning for the first time who you are, as far as where your people come from and your culture comes from. It's a giant way to feed your soul. So many people are lost today and don't have meaning and purpose in their lives. They don't know why they're here. They don't know why they were born, because we lost that connection. And we used to find it through religion. We used to find it through knowing who our creator is and understanding that the nature of everything and the order of everything, natural order, some would say, has meaning and purpose unto itself. And reading fairy tales, believe it or not, was a way that everybody reinforced that. It's amazing, actually, in my daily life, how often I think about the lessons we've learned and the stories that these fairy tales have brought to us to show us the lessons. It's pretty incredible. I don't know if you guys are doing the same thing, those that have been following on Sunday. I don't know if you think about it in your daily lives, the fairy tales, that is. The phrase that comes to me all the time is, and that's why we read fairy tales on Sunday. Because honestly, the world would be a better place if we'd all been raised reading these. So it's pretty incredible. Also incredible where my glasses have gone. Okay. Because in order to read these fairy tales, I have to be able to see. So let's make that happen. Okay. Here we go. Let's all nerd out together. I tried to get the ones that are not the big, giant feminist glasses. You know how they have the giant goggles on their face? That's so weird. It's sort of like a ironically ugly look. Like they try to look real pretty and then they put that on. I think that's part of it, but that's not what today's about. Pretty sure. You never know where these fairy tales are going to go. All right, let's see. Go in here. The three little birds. More than 1,000 years ago, there were many minor kings in this country, and one of them lived on the mountain called Koderberg. He was very fond of hunting, and one day when he left his castle and went down the mountain with his huntsmen, he came upon three maidens. Here we go. It could go either way. And that's the thing about the fairy tales. It does go either way with the women. It's very extreme. You either have a witch or you have a pious maiden. There seems to be no in between, really, which is a good lesson for you guys out there, right? If you find a middle of the road one who doesn't seem like they're either, trust me, they're not the pious maiden type. They're the other type. So let that be a lesson to you right now. I just know that from having read all these other fairy tales and experienced life. I'm like, oh yeah, the Grimm brothers were trying to warn everybody. especially the men, and teach the women to be the pious maiden types. So he came upon 3 maidens tending their cows. When they saw the king with his men, the older pointed at the king and called to the other 2, "Hello, hello. If I can't have that if I can't have that man over there, I don't want any at all." Then the second responded from the other side of the mountain and pointed at the fellow walking on the king's right. "Hello, hello. If I can't have that man over there, I don't want any at all." Finally, the youngest pointed at the fellow on the king's left and called out, "Hello, hello. If I can't have that man over there, I don't want any at all." Okay, awfully forward. You guys said you wanted the women to approach. These women are approaching, aren't they? Back then. That's very interesting. These women are saying, "I'm interested in this one. I'm interested." And nowadays, and for a long time since the advent of dating, it's always been incumbent upon the man to do the approaching. But maybe that is a very, very new thing. Maybe back long time ago, and for a long, long time ago, the man always knew the woman was open to his advances. Maybe in the past, there wasn't really the same risk of rejection. Interesting. Finally, the younger, The 2 men were the king's ministers, and the king had heard what the maidens had said. After he returned from the hunt, he summoned the 3 maidens and asked them what they had said the day before on the mountain. They refused to answer. But the king asked the oldest if she would take him for her husband. Since she said yes, and her 2 sisters also married the 2 ministers, for the maidens were all beautiful and had fine features, especially the queen, who had hair like flax. Blonde hair, right? That means blonde hair. The 2 sisters didn't bear any children, and once, when the king had to take a trip, he asked them to stay with the queen and cheer her up, for she was with child. While he was away, she gave birth to a little boy who had a bright red star as a birthmark. But the 2 sisters decided to throw the pretty baby boy into the river. Oh, what? Well, like I said, goes either way. So that's great. So they're jealous. Jealous. Yeah, we can definitely be that way. We are that way. That is a giant problem with our nature. In the Garden of Eden, when the snake was tempting Eve with the fruit, one of the things he used was her propensity, is that the right word, for jealousy. Because he said, the Lord doesn't want you to have it. He has all this knowledge. He knows all of this, but he doesn't want you to know. He doesn't want you to have it. And she's like, oh, I want to have it. I should have it too. It's very much rooted in jealousy. So these women are that jealous. After they had thrown him into the water, I think it was the Weezer, a little bird flew up in the air and sang. The Weezer is Weser. Get ready for your death. I'll see what I can do. Get ready for the wreath. Brave boy, can that be you? When the 2 sisters heard the song, they feared for their lives and ran off. Later, the king returned home, and they told him the queen had given birth to a dog. And the king responded, whatever God does is always for the best. There you go. There you go. Now that really hits. You know, in Iceland, they have eradicated Down syndrome. Nobody cured it. They just got rid of all of them before they could exist here on like outside of the womb. But I think it would be better to say whatever God has done, it is for the best. What a fantastic attitude. However, a fisherman lived by the river, and he fished the little boy out of the river while he was still alive. Since his wife had not given birth to any children, they fed and cared for him. After a year had passed, the king went on another journey, and the queen gave birth to a second boy during his absence. The two wicked sisters again took the baby away and threw him into the river. Then the little bird flew up into the air once more and sang, "Get ready for your death. I'll see what I can do. Get ready for the wreath. Brave boy, can that be you?" When the king came home, the sisters told him the queen had again given birth to a dog, and he responded as before, "Whatever God does is always for the best." However, the fisherman fetched this baby out of the water too, and fed and cared for him. Once again, the king went on a journey, and the queen gave birth to a little girl, whom the wicked sisters also threw into the river. Then the little bird flew up into the air once more and sang, "Get ready for your death. I'll see what I can do. Get ready for the wreath. Brave girl, can that be you?" When the king came back home, the sisters told him the queen had given birth to a cat. Now, didn't I say in one of the last videos that women are more like cats? I said it in the chat. I said it in the chat that women are more like cats. That's weird. And honestly, let me just say, because I said this the other day to a friend. I said, I'm not saying this in the way that women say, oh, men are like dogs. No, it's not an insult, because dogs are loving unconditionally. Unconditionally. Their love is sacrificial. They will get in between you and a perpetrator or what have you. They're affectionate. They're humble. They're the most loyal creature on the face of the earth. So men are like dogs. They are. Now, women are like cats. Untrainable to an extent, right? You better get them when they're kittens. We are aloof, selfish. We are more like cats. I can't believe they're making this comparison. It's confirms my theory. Okay, given birth to a cat, huh? This time, the king became so angry that he had his wife thrown into prison, where she was forced to stay for many years. Well, he didn't say that what God has done, it was for the best. He didn't say that anymore. Maybe his faith wore out. Maybe his faith got exhausted. I know that happens with us sometimes. We stay faithful, and then it's like we can only take so much, and then we just don't have the strength to trust anymore. And then what do you do in that spot? That's why these were great to teach children, because all the times I stopped, I would be teaching the children and asking the questions. Sometimes teaching them is about posing the question. so that they learn to critically think and ask these questions in life, then refer to what they know and what is in scripture to then answer, right? Not whatever the propaganda is, because back then there wasn't really that much propaganda. There couldn't be. There was no radio, there was no television, there were no movies. These were printed in 1812 and 1815, and they're from stories that have been collected through memory of just speaking them for maybe even hundreds of years. So it was before any of that propaganda and brainwashing would take away truth, because that's exactly what it does. When you hide God, you hide truth. Okay, so he threw her away. He threw her into prison. That's fantastic. Threw her into prison where she was forced to stay for many years. And this queen has been through a lot. In the meantime, the children grew up, and one day the oldest went out fishing with some older boys. Well, I'm sorry, with some other boys. But they didn't want him around and said, "You foundling, go your own way." Go your own way. He was going to be a boy going his own way. The boy was very upset when he heard that and asked the old fisherman whether it was true. Then the fisherman told him how he had been out fishing one day and had found him in the water. The boy then said he wanted to go out and search for his father. The fisherman begged him to remain, but there was no holding him back. At last the fisherman gave in, and the boy went forth. He walked for many days, and until he came to a large and mighty river, where he found an old woman standing and fishing. "Good day, Grandma," said the boy. Just a random. Well, many call Grandma. Okay. "Good day, Grandma. Why, thank you kindly. You'll be fishing here a long time before you catch any fish. And you'll be searching a long time before you find your father. How are you going to get across the river? God only knows." Then the old woman picked him up and carried him across her back. Wow. Then the old woman picked him up and carried him across on her back. Once he was on the other side, he continued his search for his father a long time, but he couldn't find him. When a year had gone by, the second boy went out looking for his brother. He too came to the river, and the same thing happened to him as with his brother. Now only the daughter was left alone at home, and she grieved so much for her brothers that finally the fisherman had to let her go too. Soon she also came to the large river and said to the old woman, "Good day, Grandma." "I thank you kindly. May God help you with your fishing." When the old woman heard that, she treated the girl in a friendly way. She carried her across the river, gave her a stick, and said, "Now, my daughter, just keep going straight ahead, and when you come to a big black dog, you must be quiet. Don't be afraid, or laugh, or stop to look at it. Then you'll come to a large open castle. You must drop the stick on the threshold and go right through the castle and out the other side, where you'll see an old well." Oh, I hope she's writing this down. I'm already lost. "A big tree will be growing from the well, and a cage with a bird inside will be hanging on the tree. Take the cage down and get a glass of water from the well. Then carry both things back the same way you came. When you come to the threshold, pick up the stick. And when you come to the dog again, hit it in the face with the stick." Violence. "But see to it that you don't miss. Then come back here to me." That's a lot of instructions. And it's interesting she did not give this advice to the boys. They didn't say, God help you with your fishing. This seems to have made all the difference so far. We still don't know if we can really trust this old woman. I'm always very skeptical of the female characters the most, and the elves. Elves and dwarves. You gotta watch them. You gotta watch them. All right. So do all those things and come back there to the old woman. The girl found everything just as the woman had said, and on her way back from the castle, she met her two brothers, who had been searching half the world for each other. They went on together to the spot where the black dog was lying. Then she hit it in the face and it turned into a handsome prince. Okay. Turned into a handsome prince who accompanied them to the river. The old woman was still standing there and was happy to see them. She carried all four of them across the river, and then she departed because she had now been released from the magic spell. Who put the spell on her? Only nefarious characters we have so far are the two evil sisters so far. But I don't know that we've come to the part in the fairy tale. There's always a part. It's like 3/4 of the way through. And that's when we go on the acid trip. It still has meaning, but fairy tale will fairy tale. Okay. The others traveled back to the old fisherman, but they were all glad to have found each other again. Okay. The others traveled back to the old fisherman, and they were all glad to have found each other again. Once inside the house, they hung the birdcage on the wall. But the second son was still restless, so he took a bow and went hunting. When he became tired, he took out his flute and began playing a little tune. The king, who also was out hunting, heard the music and went toward it. When he saw the boy, he said, "Who's given you permission to hunt here?" That's so funny. He looked through half the world, and then he came home after finding his brother. Then he went out one day hunting, and he was restless, and he played the flute. And all of a sudden, is this his dad showing up after he played the flute? I know you guys have told me a lot about the power of music and what it means spiritually and stuff. And so I'm just wondering if you guys have a comment on that right here in the story with him playing the flute. What is the significance of that? Because I'm sure there is significance. So who has given you permission to hunt here? Nobody. Who are your parents? I'm the fisherman's son, but he doesn't have any children. If you think I'm lying, come along with me. The king did. The king did so and asked the fisherman who told him all that had happened. Okay, sorry, I'm reading with the wrong inflection. Lola's distracting me. The king did so and asked the fisherman who told him all that had happened. Suddenly, the little bird in the cage began to sing. "O king of noble blood, your children are back for good, but their mother sits in prison with nothing much to live on. Her sisters are the wicked ones who took your daughter and sons and left them to the river's fate, but all were saved by the fisherman before it was much too late." When they heard the song, they were all astounded. The king took the little bird, the fisherman, and the 3 children with him to his castle, where the prison gate was opened and his wife released. However, she had become very sick and was haggard. So her daughter gave her a drink of water from the well, and she regained her health. But the two wicked sisters were burned to death, and the daughter married the prince. That all happened very fast. So evil did not succeed, clearly. It never can in the fairy tale. It just can't. It's never going to succeed. I was thinking about this the other day. What does that mean in our lives? Does it mean that bad things don't happen or that bad people don't win? No. Because I think when a fairy tale talks about living happily ever after or alludes to that in the end, you have to think about it from the Grimm brothers' perspective and all the people that went before them that contributed to these stories. You have to think about their perspective, right? And you guys tell me what you think about this. When they say lived happily ever after, what does that mean? Does it mean until they pass? Or does it mean in the ever after? Because sometimes things go very wrong in fairy tales, right? Bad things happen to good people in these fairy tales. You saw these children innocent, and the wicked sisters did what they did to them, right? But the thing is that when these fairy tales teach that when you look to God and you try your best to follow his ways, things will work out in the end. What does the end mean? Does it mean when you pass? I don't think so. Think about it this way. If you truly believe, then you know that life is infinite, that it doesn't end when you pass and this body is finished. It means there's something on the inside that's existing beyond you. And I think we all have a sense that that's true. And you will notice that all the powers that be and all the science, trust the science and all that, try to dispel that. That's hogwash. All that's here is material stuff. There's nothing spiritual. There's nothing out there that we can't see, even though there's radio waves and Wi-Fi and there's tons of stuff we can't see. You are unique. There's nobody else like you. And your existence does not end when you pass. So happily ever after, I think, at least suggests and puts in the minds of children that this is the pathway, these ways of living, the way these fairy tales teach you what to avoid, what not to be like, and what to strive for, and what to lean on. The daughter said, God help you with your fishing, lady, grandma. That changed everything in this story. The boy went out looking. He was nice to the grandma. Fine, that's great, whatever. Other boy, nice to the grandma, great. But the daughter thought, okay, so here's the thing. The boys were like, I'm on a mission, I'm on a mission, I'm on a mission. This is what I'm doing. Hello, very nice, thank you, polite, right? I'm on a mission. The daughter was on a mission, but also saw that this lady was on a mission. She was trying to fish in water that we know was not very good for fishing. And the daughter said, may God help you with your fishing. She thought outside herself and about what that lady needed or was trying to do, right? Because think about this, in this day and age, we're like, oh, I went fishing, it was fun, whatever. They fish to eat. You don't catch fish, you don't eat. And the daughter wished her, success with her fishing. And because of that, because of the daughter's selflessness, it changed the entire story. Because then the old woman got them basically so that they could meet their father could find out the truth, free the mother, and the old woman was released from her spell. All because the daughter called upon the Lord for someone else. That's powerful. Also, I am sure I can hear your thoughts. I'm going to throw treats on the couch for Lola. Lola, do you see the treats? They're on the couch. So I just got distracted. The old woman had the catalyst for the entire story to end the way it should. And you guys are probably thinking, the woman thought outside herself. Well, that would never happen nowadays. Well, exactly. Because if you've read stories like this, 2 little girls, they would aspire to be like the daughter, to be like this good queen, to not be like those wicked sisters, to even not be like the brothers who didn't think outside themselves and pray for the fisherwoman grandma. That would all change the way we behave today, the way women behave today. If they were taught, it's like pre-shaming, right? Pre-shaming, like, don't be like that. That's no good. I think that would be very effective for little girls if we pre-shamed bad behavior, because you know how we react when we feel personally shamed, right? It doesn't go over real well. It's almost difficult to like retroactively impart that to us. However, with little girls, those of you who have daughters or have granddaughters, if you pre-shame bad behavior, that will really, really help them to go the way they should go. If you read this fairy tale to them and you pointed out what I just pointed out, it would make all the difference. Women, especially, see the world and understand the world in stories. We're very micro. And in these stories, we put ourselves in them. We do that with songs. We put ourselves in the songs. We personalize everything. So this would be a very effective way to teach them. So once again, in another fairy tale, the knowledge that God just exists and to bring him into whatever it is you're doing, whatever your mission is, you bring him into it. And what other people's missions are, whatever they're trying to do, right, in life. Remember that he's there and you're bringing him into it. And also, remember that your story isn't over when you pass. It's not. That's just part of it. So those of you who are out there, like, I don't have a purpose. I don't have a reason. Yes, you do. You absolutely do. Sometimes you get thrown into the river, and you don't know what's happening. You don't know what's going to happen next. You don't. So it's like with us. Somebody goes missing from the chat, we practically send out a search party. I mean, honestly, we would if we could. AA Strumming wasn't in the chat for 4 times. And I was so worried. And he was in the hospital. That's what he shared with us last night. I was so glad to see him. But we've built such a community that when one's not there, we really look for him. And I just want to say, all of you matter. You matter. The guys in the chat, you make me laugh. If I've had a rough day, if I've had a painful day, I have multiple sclerosis, right? And I'm like, I don't even know what I'm here for, what I'm good for. I didn't know. 5.5 years ago that I'd make this channel, that I'd connect with all of you. I didn't know that. I would never have, if somebody from the future had told me, I would have been like, are you insane? I don't do public speaking. I don't want attention. It's not me. I would probably be like, I don't want that. You never know what's going to happen, and you don't know who you're affecting. Could be somebody, just a waitress, because a kind word, the smallest things. This daughter in this story said, God help you with your fishing. Look at the effect that had. It's huge. And who was she? She was a nobody. As far as anybody knew, she was a nobody. And she said a thing, a very important thing. Amazing. Bless you. It's amazing. Let me see if I can get her up on the couch for you guys. Well, she's trying. I mean, she can jump up there. She just doesn't realize there's a whole bunch more up there. There's a whole bunch more up there. She can't hear. We'll give her a second. Why not? It's Sunday. I know you guys love her. I do too. Thought we were going to lose her. A couple weeks ago, she stopped eating, and I'm just happy for all this extra time. She's 16 next month, so it's all bonus time, and I just try to be thankful for every single day. And she's very rambunctious. She still frolics all around and bosses me. She's the boss, totally. Are you the boss? You know there's more up there, silly. Anyway. Oh, goodness. So that feeds my soul. The fairy tales, the truth. The truth. That's the truth. That is the truth. Fairy tales, you guys, Miss Lola here. I'm so grateful. And that is powerful. Gratefulness is one of the most powerful things. So on that note, make sure you feed your souls. Make sure you always protect your peace. I love you guys, and I'll see you on the next one. Okay? Bye.